Ladies and gentlemen, how are you today? My name is Anthony Taylor. I'm the managing partner at SME Strategy, and I'm very, very excited to welcome you to today's webinar on performance management and how to use dashboards to get the results you want from your strategic plan. Today, I'm joined by Madison and Lori from Envisio. Hi, guys. How are you today?
Hey,
Doing great.
doing well.
Fantastic. Awesome. So, Madison and Lori both work for Envisio. They work for a company that does strategic planning software, so really specializing in dashboards and operational plans. So they're the ones who I wanted to partner with today to bring this webinar to you because at SME Strategies, you may know, we help organizations create the strategic plan, create the structure, do the vision, mission, and objectives. But the next step to making sure that you hit the goals you want is to have an operational plan, and using dashboards is one of those ways to measure and track your performance. And so there's nobody better than these two to talk to us about strategic planning. So guys, I'll pass it to you. Can you introduce yourselves and tell everyone what makes you and Envisio special?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I guess I can start. So, Madison Diaz, I'm an account executive here at Envisio. My role is to really understand organizations' objectives and success criteria around a successful implementation of the strategic plan. Once I understand that, then it's about passing that information on to Lori.
Yes, so I'm Lori Jeenan. I head up the customer success team at Envisio. So our group works on everything from the implementation into the software, developing reporting strategies. We deliver the operational workshop on site training. And then we really long-term work with customers to make sure that you are fulfilling your vision and checking those goals off the strategic plan.
Awesome. And then we recognize that there's, organizations from different sizes, scopes, and locations, but we found that pretty much every organization can benefit by having some sort of dashboard. And really, ultimately, it's so you guys can improve the performance of your strategic plan and get the sort of transformation that you want. And that's at the core of what Envisio does. So, Madison, tell us a bit about Envisio.
Yeah, well, I couldn't have said it better myself, Anthony. We're a strategy management software that aligns plans, performance measures, and reporting to achieve organizational goals. Providing a backbone, a common planning framework to align and prioritize resources to achieve those goals that you set forth and really foster a culture of accountability and communication across various departments with something we coin as roll-up reporting, and transform how organizations are visualizing both qualitative and quantitative data and performance to make informed decisions and strive towards being a high performing organization.
Woo!
So we work with hundreds of organizations, and we see successful implementations of strategic plans, and we see ones that fail. But the most common criteria in terms of successful implementation are the following. So first being, operational alignment. It's having a consistent planning framework that aligns that strategic plan and the operating plans, and which helps break down some of the silos that may exist as you progress throughout implementation and tracking that plan. Engagement and buy-in. Lori, maybe you can talk about this one.
Yeah, this is really a key kind of benefit that comes to a successful implementation. So if you give your staff an easy way to understand their responsibilities and how their daily, weekly, monthly work is contributing to the strategic plan and the organization meeting its vision, this is the key to getting your team, all your employees bought in and engaged with what's happening in your organization.
Yeah, with that, engagement and buy-in, we're then able to track and have visibility and accountability, an early warning system, if you will, to understand performance across the organization, understand where we're resourcing, and we can allocate time and really support that evidence-based and informed decision-making.
Another key outcome that we're looking for is developing measurable outcomes and showing measurable progress on the strategic plan. So with a systemized approach, it becomes intuitive to be able to come into the software, provide your update, but more importantly, monitor that progress towards fulfilling your strategic plan.
And last but certainly not least, effective communication, whether this is a dashboard or some sort of visual representation of progress that can be shared across the organization, really strengthening communication, transparency with staff internally, managers and executives, the board, and even investors.
Got that. Thanks, guys. So, like, if I can summarize what you guys have here, I mean, really, if you look at the stages that it goes through, you have operational alignment. So, as you guys had mentioned it, like making sure that the where you're going or where you're going is matching with the stuff that you're doing. Engagement and buy-in. Your people are excited about like doing the plan and moving towards that place. Visibility and accountability. Again, whether you use Envisio or another solution, it's for them to know who's responsible for what, to have clear action plans, and to have the plan like right in front of their face, to be able to track it, like track progress quantifiably, and then ultimately get the communication within your organization, outside of your organization, so everybody's on the same page and moving towards the same direction, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, one way I've seen it put is everybody's shooting their arrows in the same direction. So it's a focused efforts by everyone, top to bottom in the organization.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, in my experience, our experience here is, I've yet to find an organization with unlimited money, time, or resources. So you want to get to where you're going in the most effective way possible. At the heart of strategic planning, I'm sure you guys would agree, is like it's about choices. So making the right choices that are going to get you to the place that you want to go in the most effective manner. And it sounds like, these are the top 5. These are the top 5 things that contribute to that. So anything else to add on that one?
I completely agree, Anthony.
Awesome. Cool.
So one key thing to kind of keep in mind here is some of you may have already spent a lot of time creating a strategic plan. And now you might be thinking, now they're asking us to do another level of planning. So we're going to get into why that's important, but let's talk about the differences between the two. So strategic planning is your long-term vision. What does your organization want to be when it grows up? What's your audacious goal for yourself? So strategic planning is done at a high level for the long term. Typically what we see is 2 to 5 year thresholds. You're focusing on long-term performance targets. So these are the type of targets that may not move quickly, and they're measured over a longer period of time. In contrast, you've got your operational planning. So this is the actual work that you're doing. It's narrow in scope and it's very clearly defined. This is the support structure to achieve what you've outlined in your strategic plan. And things within the operational plan have an assigned completion date. So you expect it to start on a date and end on a date. So the easiest way to think about these two pieces is strategic planning is what your organization is going to do and why. And then operational planning is how is the organization going to achieve this.
Awesome, that makes sense. And have you guys, going through these processes, have you seen organizations that are, either like super operational focused? Because sometimes I'll go into meetings and people like all they want to do is operation stuff and they lose the strategic part. And then some people are so strategic, but then they're just not doing some of the stuff. So what have you guys seen in your implementations and working with clients, and how distinct the two?
I think it will almost vary department by department. So overall, I think the organizations we work with will tend to be more strategic thinking, but the misalignment comes with the people on the ground are very operational focused. So where we've got to do is find the connection between the two, because a connection exists, but unless we can help them to see it, they feel like they're working in two different worlds.
Okay, so like making sure that the strategic plan that gets created, typically at the leadership team level, like actually makes it down to the people that are doing the work moving forward. So making sure that like there's that communication gap and then like the structure put in place to make that work.
Yeah, it's a gap in communication and then a gap in understanding. So it's kind of a chicken and egg, which one came first. But once we show the connection and show people, well, the stuff you're doing does affect this overall big strategic plan, it's the literal light bulb moment where people all of a sudden get it. And that is where we start seeing the beginning of really great engagement in the strategic plan. Got
that. Madison, anything to add for you?
No, I think Lori hit the main point. It's having that alignment throughout, the what and the why being the strategic plan and the how being the operational plans. Once there is that link and we demonstrate that to staff, there's a level of engagement and buy-in and culture that happens that is really sparks the organization to a level that they just weren't performing at beforehand.
Yeah, I got that. And I'm sure we'll go into it like later on, talking about how to get the engagement, how to get the communication going. But yeah, the key part that, like, for a takeaway for you watching at home is really looking at where the gaps exist in between the strategy that you've created and the actual execution of it, and how to tie the two together. And that's really why we're here today. So
Exactly.
awesome. Thanks, guys.
So when we talk about aligning strategy to operational, there's 5 key pieces to that. So we start off with building out actions that we need to happen in typically the first year, because we want to start seeing some good results right away. After that, we will start looking at having conversations internally about resource planning and time allocation. So this is now where we start bringing the engagement of departments together. I might have some actions in my operational plan that depend on something happening in another department, and I need to see and understand that connection in order to be successful. We want to build our actions to have clear completion criteria. So it should be crystal clear that this is finished, and we can celebrate it and move on. And if we're building a KPI to go along with it, it has to have clear criteria as well. That's going to allow us to track the progress of the strategic plan with those performance measures. Keeping in mind as well, what's your reporting strategy? Who are you reporting to internally? Do you have interdepartmental meetings, department leadership meetings, one-on-one meetings? What's the story that you're telling? And this is really going to help you take control of the narrative of your organization, so that when you're having to deliver anything from great news to we missed the mark, but here's what we're going to do about it, now you're in control of what that looks like. And finally, when you're building your actions, you want to think about and how you're going to deal with roadblocks. So get to the heart, the real reason why things might not work out, what's getting in the way, what are some hidden interdependencies, and address them right away, or build that as a separate action. We've got to take care of A before B can happen.
So speaking of like the A to B, are we talking strategic priorities and then action items, or having like a clear workflow for that? Can you like expand upon that a little bit?
It's going to depend. So sometimes it's because there's some interdepartmental dependencies. I can't work on my items until something happens in Madison's department. So I depend on him to complete something before I can start. Sometimes it is building out a more detailed work plan that's attached to the action, saying here are some steps, and I know these items are going to come out. So for a city example, an example that we often see is citizens are not going to be happy. An unpopular decision has had to be made, but it's necessary. You're going to have to build in how you're going to control that and what you're going to do to overcome that opposition. Sometimes if you're building in with another type of organization, things to do with human resources, you need to reduce your staff costs. That can involve some difficult decisions. That can be considered a roadblock because it can affect morale. How are you going to deal with, reducing overtime, maybe reducing staff cost, but still keep things running in a positive manner within your organization? Sometimes it's saying our strategic priorities are linked. So in order for strategic priority 1 to be successful, it's going to depend on the success of strategic priority number 2, which we want because it is a web within the plan where everything becomes dependent on each other.
Got it. So it sounds like it's like really, I know it is, but to clarify for everybody else, it really is an integrated system. And for the plan to be successful, you can't have it in isolation. That's really the beauty of having these strategy meetings. It's like everybody's on the same page, everybody has the same information, and for your organization to be successful, you need to play as a team so that everybody knows like what's going on with who and at what pace, so that you can move forward like aligned and not just like one person dragging another one.
Exactly. And I mean, for an organization to be successful, every department has to be successful. So it's no use to Madison if he's seeing great success and his department's moving along perfectly and mine is stalled and we're not achieving what we need to achieve. Once we start breaking down those silos, I might be able to come to another department like Madison's and say, hey, I need some resources. I need some help. You guys are really good at this. Can I use some of that expertise? Because ultimately we all play for the same organization. So why not take advantage of what we might not otherwise have been aware of within our teams?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I found that as well. Like when everybody knows what everybody else is working on, then you can like ask for help and it's clear. It's not like uncertain. You say, oh, can you help me with this? Because this is what my strategic priorities are, or this is where the gaps are in my team. So can you support? So it makes it a lot easier for other people to contribute, which increases the morale, increases the teamwork, because everybody really wants to contribute to others. They just don't often know how, and they sometimes feel that they like pressure people and like, oh, I don't want to like step on any toes. One of the other things that I'll mention when it looks at like roadblocks, so our process for creating strategic plans in 4 steps is where are we now, where are we going, what's going to get in our way, and what do we need to do to get there. So we identify the roadblocks, just like you guys do, identify the roadblocks before you do your action plan, so that when you're on your action plan, you don't get thrown off by stuff that is in the way.
That makes sense. And sometimes those roadblocks at a higher level, if you can eliminate them in the strategic planning, they go away at the operational level. So you don't have to replicate that again.
Yeah, and again, the whole like systems approach to like identifying stuff. So, Madison, what do you see when you're talking to people, looking at the software, and when it comes to strategic and operational alignment? What are some of the biggest challenges that they face moving forward, and how do you recommend that they address them?
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of the biggest challenges that we hear time and time again in many of the conversations that we have around strategic planning implementation and successful implementation of plans. If there isn't that alignment, there's a lot of roadblocks that can occur as you guys have discussed. So a lot of organizations are looking for ways to communicate that alignment, having some sort of system in place where staff can understand their responsibilities. They can understand where their shared initiatives and where those shared initiatives may exist. They can communicate with other departments on those shared goals. And then not only that, but having that transparency across the organization, understanding, okay, Lori is working on X, Y, and Z in her department. I'm working on X, Y, and Z. I've completed X, Y, and Z. Now, maybe I want to reach out to Lori and say, I'm part of this project. I'm a contributor. Maybe I can lend a hand because I finished X, Y, Z in my own individual department. So really just having a system in place that brings that communication and demonstrates the alignment and can connect staff on shared initiatives.
One of the other things I got from what you said, Madison, was having like responsibilities that are clear and understood by everybody else. And that speaks to the first point around the action plan, so that everybody knows what each another is working on. And then, it's clear and everybody has that like clear roadmap, so they know exactly what to do next instead of, just like trying to figure out. And then from a leadership standpoint, it makes it easier to delegate to people when what needs to be done is clear and well identified.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Maybe a good segue to jumping into having that Cascade plan framework. So this is a screenshot of the Envisio software. At the end of today's webinar, we will be looking at a couple different real live examples of dashboards. So that is upcoming. But what we're looking at here is top-down planning. So really what Lori's discussed and Anthony's discussed is having that strategic alignment from the strategic plan, maybe goals and strategies, down into the operational plans at the department level, being the actions in this case, and then having a system to roll up progress. So, having actions roll up to strategies, roll up to goals, and then we have that organization alignment.
Cool. So like moving from top down, bottom up, and then having everything like clear in between is how they like contribute. I haven't told you guys about I haven't told you probably the VMOST framework, or vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics is the process we use. And then how this helps from an organizational standpoint, if you're looking at building out your operational plan, is you have your organizational objectives, then you can have your departmental objectives, and then you have individual objectives, so that you're measuring people on, you know, what's most important. And Lori, I don't know if you have a different approach or similar approach to that.
That probably lines up with the most common approach that we see. Sometimes we have to do a little bit of tweaking to make it work perfectly for an organization, but it's fluid enough that if it isn't quite there, we can get it there for you. But that describes probably about 95% of how our customers use it.
Cool. And I like this because it's simple and it's like really easy to understand. And I think the key to a good, effective strategic plan is that it's simple and people understand it and know how to like communicate and get behind it. So.
I agree. So the benefits of a good operational plan. So now that we've talked to you about what it is and how it attaches to your strategic plan, let's talk about the four biggest benefits that you'll see from it. It gives you a roadmap to describe how you're going to achieve those goals. You're going to be able to assign, track, and then report on your strategic plan and performance measures. So that comes back to that clear responsibility piece. Who do I need to go to talk to about this? For the leadership, it gives an early alert for things that get off track. What's going to be done about that? Then you can take early corrective action, get things back on track before it becomes an even bigger issue. And finally, probably the biggest piece is it's going to change your culture. It starts allowing that culture of engagement and people feeling bought in. They understand how they're contributing to the overall organizational goals, and they just want to do more. They feel good about what they're doing, and I think that is probably the biggest piece that you'll get from this.
Cool. Yeah, like I always look at people, they want a scoreboard. And it's like the scoreboard for the team. For those of you that are football fans out there, and I mean like American football, there's like on American football, there's offense, there's defense, and special teams. And everybody plays their own role, but everybody has the same scoreboard. So using, like having an effective operational plan like this, or putting any sort of structure in place, keeping that scoreboard in mind so that your team can be successful and rally around it. Lori, Madison, I mean, do you have any best practices that people can take away, like on how to, we talked about dashboards and we alluded to some things, but like what can people do to set up this type of operational plan and put that together? And I know we already talked a couple things, but is there any other best practices that you would advocate on how they can implement this and put this together in their team?
I would say get everybody together. You'll start identifying the synergies between departments, ones that might have been obvious, but then you're going to uncover ones that you didn't know existed. People are going to get a better understanding of what's happening in the organization. I kind of know what these guys do, but I'm not really sure how it's contributing to the bottom line. That's why we're all here. And it allows people to start bouncing ideas off of each other. It allows new partnerships to form. And you might even get away from having to duplicate some work. You might uncover that certain departments are already doing something. So why not work together on it, do it once and do it well? That's probably a best practice. If you don't know how to get this done, bring in somebody to help you do it. You might not, you might know that you need to be here, but you don't know how to get here. You don't know how to start. And that's okay, because I think, the first thing you have to do is identify you've got a problem. The problem is you need an operational plan. You're an expert in whatever it is that your organization does. You can't be an expert at everything. So that's why you need to bring in people that can help you. And you have to feel that there's a good level of understanding and trust between who you've brought in to work with you, that they understand where you're trying to go, that they're not trying to bend you into something that isn't going to work. Keeping an open mind too. I think that's a key piece to getting this done. Don't dismiss an idea just because it's never been done before. However, if an idea doesn't work out, get rid of it, let it go. Maybe that's not the right track for your organization, but you tried. And I think flexibility is an important part of this.
Flexibility in what sense?
Just being, flexible, being open to trying new things. And then the flexibility to say, at the time that seemed really important, but all things considered, we don't have the resources or we don't have the time to do it properly. We're going to put it on the back burner for now. Your business changes, your organization changes, your operational level plan. That's why it's not planned out as far as your entire strategic plan, is it allows for that organizational change and growth to happen, and then for you to realign your operational level to take advantage of that.
Got that. Madison, anything to add there?
No, I mean, the initial thing Lori said was getting everyone together, and I think that is one of the biggest keys. Something that we actually do here at Envisio is offsites for departments. We'll go offsite for a day, and we'll just everybody get on the same page. And what we come out of that day, that offsite with, is an action plan list, priorities for the year or month or quarter or whatever we're meeting, and everyone's clear on their responsibilities, what needs to get done, and we're aligning that to our organization's goals. So I think getting everyone in the same room has a lot of value, and I'd recommend that to any organization or any individual department who's struggling to get on the same page. Take some time, take a day. You may have to cancel some meetings, but hopefully you can reschedule those. But it really will be beneficial.
Yeah, I think if what works, I mean, we've seen it here at Envisio, like Madison says, is departments will go off site. So no checking your email, no checking your text messages. You're fully focused on what you're doing. And then we get together too. So departments that work closely together will have another bigger offsite. So for us, it might be sales and customer success, or product. We're going to bring the product team in and talk about how we're all trying to meet our customers' needs. But doing that away from the distraction of your everyday work and bringing every stakeholder in so that they can be informed and have their voice heard is a key piece of that being successful.
Just make sure you bring a large pot of coffee.
Yes, lots of coffee.
And snacks. You need snacks.
And snacks, yeah.
And actually, I will say, so I would be remiss if I didn't say, use SME Strategy for your facilitation needs. But if you do
I think sometimes one of the things that can be a challenge, especially at the operational level of the plan, is it's your day-to-day, so you're a little too close to it sometimes. So you need that objective outsider view to help tease out those things that they're so close to you that you've lost sight of them. And I've certainly seen the benefit of that. Envisio's had the benefit of having outside facilitation as well. So, I will say using a company like SME, it minimizes the time to seeing success from these types of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And
bring that outside perspective.
Yeah.
Tying in the vision, making sure you're doing the stuff that gets you to where you want to go. So 2 things I want to mention. 1, if you do an offsite, make sure you have coffee and snacks, because after a day, no joke, I've been to ones without snacks and literally just snacks. It takes so much mental energy to put that kind of focused work in, is that, the $20 or whatever it is you'll spend on fruit or donuts or whatever, you will get 10 times, at least, just by pure energy. It's exhausting. But the other thing that I heard from both of you in what you were saying around taking that time to get offsites and to create this operational plan. So among other things, synergies, just getting people together, the collective intelligence, none of us is as smart as all of us. So we get the ball rolling on those ideas, and trust, trust in this type of human environment. Trust is so huge in being able to take a workforce and a group of human beings to elevate their performance. And without trust, nothing happens. And that, speaking to number 4, is really creating the optimized culture that you want, creating the workspace that works for everybody. Without trust, you got nothing. And then, bringing that open mind and flexibility and creating something new out of that. So just a few things to take away from that conversation. So there you go. Engaging your employees. Go on.
So I think maybe some of you are sitting here going, but I know I need to engage my employees, but I don't know where to start. And again, that's why we're saying it's okay to not know what you don't know. So here's some things to start off with. When you're doing your strategic and operational planning, involving people at all levels within the organization makes them feel like they've got some skin in the game. And it shows them that they have the ability to affect change in your organization. And that's powerful. Once you've got your plans in place, you need to be consistent and timely with showing what those progress updates are. If you ask me to give you a progress update and then it just disappears and I never hear any feedback about it, or I never see why you need it, my enthusiasm is going to wane very fast. And that's the number one thing that'll fall off people's to-do list because they're busy. You need to celebrate people's success, celebrate team success, acknowledge when things have been completed, acknowledge if you've got great performance measure results. It doesn't have to always be a big, parade, but just acknowledging that you saw that it was done and it was done well. This kind of comes back to the flexibility piece, is fail fast and regroup quickly. If something's not working, or you find that it's not achievable with the timeline or the resources that you've dedicated to it, just continue it and move on. You don't have the time to beat that dead horse. It's not coming back to life. So that's why we say to fail fast. And Envisio lives by that. We try lots of things, and then we're okay with going, it seemed like a great idea, but it's not for us. Let's discontinue it.
And for those of you outside of North America, beating a dead horse is an idiom, not a literal thing we do in offices here. So just to make sure that we're clear on that one. And speaking to the last point, the fail fast, regroup quickly is the benefit of having like the timely updates and keeping it top of mind. Is it really is like an effective strategic plan, an effective organization that thinks strategically, has a living document, and it really has to be like put top of mind, do the strategic stuff to make the rest of your work easier. It's not a make work exercise doing strategy stuff, as Laura, you had alluded to. It's really, how do we prioritize and do the things that are going to make us the most effective? And then, celebrating successes. Like, people want to win. Like, let your people win. And by doing all of these things, there's so much cost savings, cost benefit to having happy people, to having productive people, to having engaged people, to having people not leave. It's, goes well beyond we could talk about this probably for hours, but the qualitative and quantitative benefits. This is really about the ROI of your strategic plan, and it's going to make you money. It's going to make you impact. There's a real reason we do it. So anything that you guys want to add on that, so I don't get too excited about this?
I think you touched on a key piece there that I think, Madison, you'd agree, we see this all the time, is people always refer to their strategic plans as a living document, or a guiding document. And then it really just sits on the shelf. You don't ever do anything with it. The reason why typically comes down to two things. Either you don't have a good operational plan, so the how is missing, or people are not engaged in it. So it must be a living document. I think we all know how important that is. But these are the two things you need to have in place in order for that to actually happen, and not just be a line in your strategic plan that is now collecting dust.
Madison, anything to add?
Yeah, it's it's the leader's responsibilities to engage the employees and get them to buy into the big picture vision of the organization. And when that happens, and employees start to understand contribution, we're celebrating successes internally. There's a sense of momentum that builds up in an organization, and everyone feels it. It's a certain energy, it's a certain flow, if you will, a state of mind where you're excited to come to work. You're excited to contribute to the team, and when that happens, like, you're just ticking off things in the strategic plan, and that just continues to build up. So yeah, that's fail fast, regroup quickly. Another really important key.
And one thing that I forgot to mention before, when it comes to the consistent, timely progress updates, and when we talked about before, around teamwork is it moves the plan from being like implicit, like it's implied that everybody's doing this stuff and it's implied that we're working on this, to explicit, clear, and top of mind for everyone. And then Madison, as you were explaining your example, I was picturing somebody doing a wave in the stadium. One guy doing a wave doesn't really make a big difference, but once you get everybody in the whole organization, it really creates like energy. And for us at SME Strategy, and I'm sure Envisio as well, like we're about transforming organizations. Like we're not talking about incremental increases to your plan. It's, we're playing with big companies, big organizations wanting to do big things. And the difference between, incremental and transformation is getting this engagement down. Like it's 100% so important. So
I agree.
Awesome.
Transitioning. So, once we have that organization strategic and operational alignment, we've engaged staff. We have to have strategies in place for monitoring and reporting on the strategic plan and KPIs as well. So, scorecards, performance dashboards, there's different terms for it, but really what this allows us to do is understand what's on track, what's behind schedule. From an individual standpoint, I can see everything in one view that I'm responsible for. I can provide my updates. I can communicate with my managers. Report early and often. Something that Lori touched on in one of the slides is creating a reporting strategy. Use the real-time data to address the roadblocks. Support evidence-based decision within the organization, and use reports to drive internal meetings. We often hear that. With a tool such as Envisio or another tool that brings the plan to life and you're able to monitor and report, we're able to facilitate one-on-one meetings, departmental meetings. We can bring it up on the screen as a dashboard and we can communicate and talk about where things are at. It really gives us a sense of visual cue and facilitating the conversations with the exec team and the board and making sure that, again, everyone's well across all of the things that we're working on and where we are in terms of progress and where attention needs to be allocated.
Awesome. And Lori, I'm going to ask you a question about this, but like as we can see, this is a dashboard here. Whatever you use for a dashboard, we ask them the questions. Like some people yell at each other, some people are using Excel for their strategic plan monitoring. So whatever you do, the key part about it is monitoring and reporting progress. But Lori, what I want to ask you about is the evidence-based decision making. Like, tell me what you've seen as far as how having reporting in its like purest form, how that makes a difference within meetings and how it makes a difference with teams on knowing like what the score is for what's going on.
Yes. Meetings are kind of a necessary evil because a lot of people think of a meeting where people show up and a lot of talk happens and not a lot of action. And I think that's because when people come to meetings, they don't know what to talk about. So that's when we're saying a reporting strategy helps drive your meetings. If you're having a meeting and you bring up your dashboard or your scorecard on the screen, that helps facilitate things. I'm going to tell you what this red bit is here that is a roadblock. And then Madison can be like, hey, I know how I can help you with that. So let's go offline after this meeting and talk about how to work through that. Instead of talking about how you think your department is going and achieving its goals or how you feel your department is going, these are the numbers. My department is doing great. We're at 90% towards being complete. We're ahead and we're under budget because we've got the numbers to back it up. One of the things that also comes out of this is numbers aren't personal. Numbers are what they are. So we were talking earlier amongst the three of us saying that if there's an issue, it's not because I'm a bad person. It's because maybe I don't have the time or the resources or the knowledge to get where I need to go. I can then ask for it or figure out what it is that's missing or get the resources that's needed. Or somebody's not performing, it's no longer also that they're a bad person or the department is run poorly. Sometimes it is. But a lot of the times it's more about knowledge isn't being shared as well as it could be. Resources aren't being shared as well as they could be. Work's being duplicated needlessly. Putting it in perspective visually like this instantly brings a better level of understanding to what's happening in the organization.
I couldn't. I have nothing to add. That's phenomenal. Absolutely. Madison, anything for you?
No, I think Laura did a really good job at covering it.
You can probably tell that meetings that just are a lot of talk are kind of a pet peeve of mine. I'm a little passionate about it.
Well, I don't think anybody has like extra time to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I love everyone I work with, but I really would rather just go and do some work than needless talk.
What are the things, and I think we'll probably see this in the next slide, Madison, but looking at the dashboards, and it gives you something right away that you can look at, and it makes working on the strategic stuff way easier because it's right there. And you don't need to cut through a bunch of clutter. It's here's the information we need here, and we have it, so you can do those strategic things early to make it easier to talk about the strategic stuff. So then once you get back to work, it's way more focused than effective.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
So we talked a lot about tracking the strategic plan, and there is the strategic plan, and then there's tracking measures, and some organizations separate the two. The ones that are most successful are the ones that align the two. So tracking performance measures is vital to having a successful implementation of a strategic plan.
So one of the things with performance measures that you want to keep in mind is a performance measure generally is more than just counting a widget. It's more than just counting how many things, how much money, the amount of profit. Performance measures should show a change over time, an increase in profit or a decrease in costs, or showing that you're consistently above or below an average. Your customers consistently report a survey saying that they're very or extremely satisfied with the service that they receive. This means that they're going to illustrate how effective a strategy or objective is, or a project, or an overall team. So it's giving some quantitative backing to your narrative that you're talking about. Some of you then might say, but I don't know where I am in order to start moving that number. And that's okay. You can monitor to develop your baseline. But what you don't want to do is get trapped in just monitoring that baseline forever and ever. You need to say that you're going to establish that baseline. And then once you've got it, what are you going to do about it? So when you're thinking of a performance measure, think of them as either measuring success or effectiveness, or you're using it to define where you are today.
Cool.
Yeah, just to touch on that, and performance measures have a wide range. There's a wide range of type of performance measures. There's input, there's output, there's effectiveness, and there's efficiency measures. There's lagging, there's leading. So it's really good to have a clear understanding of what are the measures that we want to track. And I think effectiveness measures is what Lori was referring to, and really helps us understand how effective a project or objective or strategy or a team really is.
And then, I think it talks about the ROI of the time and money that may have gone into a project or a strategy. I think performance measures can be a bit daunting because it seems like you need to have a lot of knowledge to start working with them, but you can start small and then scale your knowledge up. You don't have to land in this with the knowledge of a data analyst. There's lots of resources that you can read or attend webinars, or have an organization like Envisio or SME Strategy come in to help you identify what's important for you to know and track right now when it comes to performance.
Absolutely. So the two parts that I took from that, the one is we talk about like ratios, or I guess we don't talk about it, but it's knowing what the critical measures are of your business, and for everybody it's different. So we can't just say you should be tracking this, because when one organization might be membership engagement, another person might be net promoter score, and another one might be like EBITDA. So you don't know what you're tracking. Yeah. And what's nice about having a dashboard is that it's fluid, in that you can pick something, try it on like a shirt. If you don't like it, put it back and look at something else. And then ultimately, like, being able to track performance over time is really, as you had mentioned, Lori, that's how you know your ROI. That's how you know if your strategy is working, if your investments are working. and to look at the investment in time and strategy to say, hey, this is really clearly working or not working, and then we stop it.
Exactly.
Cool.
So where do you go from here? I think no matter where you are, if you're just starting off or you're kind of in the middle, or you're looking to bump things up to an even higher level, these are 3 things I think that any organization can do to start or to get better. So the first thing you want to do when you're thinking of implementing a strategic and operational plan is think of who your internal champions for this are going to be. Who are the people or the department that tend to be your early, really enthusiastic adopters of change and new ideas? Get those people on board. You're going to see success with them early, and you're going to build an internal group of subject matter experts. Find a solution that offers flexible reporting options. Whatever tool you choose, whether it's Envisio or something else, don't allow that tracking tool to dictate your reporting strategy. You need something that's flexible. That can be one of the biggest downsides with Excel, is that it's not flexible. It wasn't really built to be a strategic management tool. Find something that will grow with you as well. So out of the box, you're going to get some value with it, and down the road, it's going to continue to provide value to you. And again, we've talked about collaboration a number of times, but it's so important. Building the strategic and operational plans collectively, collaboratively, you're going to break down those internal silos. And a cross-functional collaborative team is a high-performing, successful team. And then that leads to your business and your organization being high-functioning and successful. So you might think that we continuously talk about it, but it's just so important that we want to bring it up constantly.
One thing I want to mention, we did have a question earlier when it came to like the performance management and the tracking in the not-for-profit space, and the question was specifically around boards and staff. And so the question was like, where do you actually set the action plans? So when it comes to collaboration from a board level, and Lori, let me know what you think about this, but a board's job responsibility is to set the direction. They set the vision. They set the strategic priorities. When it comes to doing the operational plan and the action planning, that's at the staff level. And it's important that you let the staff dictate their own work instead of you saying, hey, do this. It's more of an approach where you can ask them, what do you think you can do? Where are the opportunities there for you? And making that distinction so it is really cross-functional collaboration, but nobody is stepping on anyone's toes, and it's really assigning responsibility without dictating what to do. So pull people into your plan instead of pushing it onto them.
I agree. This is kind of where your board or your executive team, depending on the type of organization that you have, or council, if you're a city or a municipality, they know things at a really high level, and their responsibility is to set that overall vision. But if you tell me what I have to come to work to do every day, and it's, especially if it's wrong, that's not what my job is, that's not what I should be focusing on, that's not the best use of my knowledge, now you've got disengagement. So I agree completely with what Anthony says about this.
So let's talk about disengagement for a little bit, because it's a very real thing where you have people who want nothing to do with the plan, or they don't want to change, or they want like ways to go. So number one was identify internal champions. So what would you do if you had somebody on your team who I can answer the question if you want, but what would you do if you had somebody on the team who wasn't on board with the strategic direction or what there was to do in the plan?
Yeah, so this came up earlier, and Anthony and I address it differently, but we're really coming to the same conclusion. So when I am on site delivering an operational workshop, I'll be directly confronted by department leaders they don't want this, they don't see the value in it. And I try to demonstrate value or to show how this is going to help them. Like, what's in it for you? Well, there's this and all these other things. So sometimes you got to come at it from that way. sometimes it's more just letting the leadership know who have engaged me to say, you know what, this department is a problem and they don't buy in. They don't want to be here. Or it's watching the reporting and part of customer success and moving customers towards achieving their desired outcome is picking up the phone and going, hey, I'm looking at your reports and this department, it's not going well. Not because there's they're off track or there's a roadblock. It's because there's nothing here. They're not reporting. They're disengaged. I usually kind of leave it there, but Anthony has a different approach. So Anthony would come in and say,
I'm a little bit more direct in saying if the people are not moving your strategic plan forward, then they're pulling it backwards. And at the end of the day, it's not even if you are in a charity, your charity is to serve other people, but either get them in a different seat on the bus or get them off the bus. And reporting and dashboards are also a really useful tool to monitor that progress if they're not pulling their weight. But really it can act as like a poison and spread negative energy is actually a lot more powerful than positive energy. So you might work super hard on getting engagement and getting your team engaged, but that person who's pulling the plan is going to do a lot more damage moving forward. And it's important to, really be aware of that and to address that and to make sure in the initial stages of your strategic plan that you get, everybody clear with like the vision, where are we going and why are we going there? And if they don't have a clear why they want to go there, it's going to cause problems right away. So again, having somebody outside look at that, or just being astute and attuned enough to know who's a champion and who's a detractor, and then who's neutral. Because there really is that level, and it's being aware and taking the time to be aware of that.
That kind of brings back to what we were talking about, the reporting strategy and how dashboards can help you with this and how it takes the personal out of this. If your dashboard is blank and there's no numbers on it because you are disengaged or your department's disengaged, again, that's not a personal thing. You are there. The dashboard doesn't lie. The information's not there. You're clearly not part of, the team. That's you don't even want to know what the score is. You're not even trying to score a goal. It looks like. So I agree. And I think this is the hard part of leadership, is having the conversations and being able to say, you know what, if you don't want to go where we're going, then we have to leave you behind. Because leaving one person behind is better than your organization not achieving its goals.
Preach.
Yeah. Just a quick note on disengagement. I read a really interesting book a few years back called Peak by Chip Connolly, and it's back to Psych 101 in high school or university, but the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the human's needs. If you bring that into the organization, if you look at it from the pyramid standpoint, from the bottom to the top is the self-actualization. And once you have engaged staff and they're at that level, they're performing at a level that's unbelievable, exceptional, and that drives the organization forward. And that actually will lead to other staffs, jumping on board, saying like, why are they so engaged? And that just, again, drawing back to the momentum and building that energy within the organization, really just creating a culture of collaboration and engaged employees.
That's awesome. Cool. I don't know what else we can give you right there.
Yeah.
Engage everybody. Engage them often, engage them early, and let them go if they're disengaged.
Cool.
I guess it's easy for me to say, but
that's a process, right?
Yeah.
Madison, what do we got next here?
So we got a couple of live dashboards that we have set up.
Cool. And so the purpose of this really wanted to show like what this can look like, whether you use Envisio, whether you use another tool for your dashboard, some examples of what you can take inspiration from to move this forward. And again, if you are interested in looking at Envisio, there's an opportunity to get a demonstration at the end of the webinar. So go ahead, Madison.
Yeah, no, what we wanted to demonstrate was just some real live dashboards of what we've been discussing. So first being that planning cascade. So this is where we can cascade our goals maybe into supporting of strategies and actions. And this is what Lori talked a lot about on having that strategic and operational alignment clear understanding of responsibilities, and also aligning performance measures. So these purple icons are measures, and I'll just open that up. So you can see that where relevant, we're aligning performance measures to goals, strategies, and actions.
And what I like about this is that it's super clear and easy to understand, and everybody knows where it's at. And it looks like you've got a couple people's pictures at the bottom, so it's different people's responsibilities, like you said, Lori, making sure that everybody is together.
I think one of the things that I'll see when Envisio is engaged to kind of help bridge that operational and strategic gap in an organization is using a reporting tool. Make sure that everybody's using the same language. So when I'm referring to a strategy, it's the same thing as what Madison and Anthony are referring to as strategy. So it brings some commonality to the plan, which deepens the understanding of it. If I need a bunch of footnotes to understand, well, no, in this case, a goal is actually a strategy, and what we call an action is actually a key outcome indicator, but with a narrative. That's way too complicated. So we want to keep things simple, and that's what having a reporting tool brings to your operational and strategic plan.
Absolutely.
Here's an example of a dashboard where we're looking at it from an individual standpoint. So you can see everything that you're responsible for, whether that's your actions or strategies or measures that we had built out in that planning cascade that we just took a look at. And this is a great way to gain insight when you log in. Okay, what are the actions that I'm responsible for? Where are they at this point in time? When are my updates due? And then if I look at it from my strategies in the middle, I can see the roll up of all of the actions that are supporting the strategy. And I, as a manager or a department director, I can say, okay, I'm responsible for the strategy. I can look at it in one glance and say, okay, it's 80% complete. 100% of the things that we're working on are on track. And that's strategy 1.1 that I'm looking at. So really great way to visualize performance on a dashboard.
And it looks like it also shows the priorities there, that you can actually see, like, prioritize the tasks and the goals within that as well.
Yes. So one of the things that Envisio and many other reporting tools will allow you to do is assign a priority to different items within your strategic and operational plans. Because there's probably a difference if a low priority item is off track than if a very high priority item is off track, or vice versa. It also is good when you're looking at what's coming up. Maybe what you're going to be working on in the next month or the next quarter. What are your high priorities? You can sort by that as well. And then there's people who have a challenge with this, because most of the time people feel that everything is a high priority. But if everything's a high priority, nothing is a high priority. So part of when we're working with customers for planning operationally, and you can use this at any level of your strategic plan, is we've got a couple of different tools to actually tie break or get to the root of not all things are equal. There are dependencies. So how do we lay that out so that we can start assigning meaningful start and end dates and prioritizing things correctly? If everything starts and ends and is just as high priority as everything else in the plan, it's very hard to make forward momentum with that.
You can also use a Gantt chart for that. But if you put your entire strategic plan on a Gantt chart, Gantt chart, it's a dashboard. It's just not as intuitive and visual as this one. But I mean, it's whatever tool works for you. And that's really the key, is use a tool, whatever it is. So awesome, Madison.
Agreed.
Yeah, that certainly is the key. Here's an example of a KPI dashboard. I'll just make this a little bigger. There we go. So, there's the strategic plan dashboards, or having everything in a dashboard, and then there's dedicated KPI dashboards, or metrics dashboards, if you will. And the value of having KPI dashboards is that you can create individual department dashboard KPIs, and you can understand performance in one view, and this can be shared throughout the organization. Or you can create KPI dashboards in relation to projects by different themes, categories, you name it. You can organize KPI dashboards, which will bring values into meetings, one-on-one meetings, departmental meetings, and just making sense of all of those numbers that sit across your organization.
And it looks like they're like, I see the waste generation, overall waste, like those are your top 3 priorities. So they're right at the top. So you don't need to go fishing around. You have it right there. So you have the scoreboard right there. So everybody knows what it is and can, take actions in line with either moving it whatever way you want. So.
And we talked earlier today saying that people synthesize data differently. So some people are a lot more visually driven. And I think it was Anthony's point that if you give them a whole big chunk of words, they're not really going to get meaning from it. But if you show them a well-designed chart or graph, they're going to have almost instant understanding. So you're now applying or recognizing different learning and understanding styles and bringing everybody on board with this.
Absolutely.
The last dashboard we had, maybe Lori, you want to take this one away?
Yeah, so this is just a nice high-level look at where the goals or the top level of your strategic plan are within the software. In the top right-hand corner, you have overall, and then it breaks down into each goal. And what I see customers do with this is it starts to take the place of paper reporting. This is something that you might bring up in a meeting where various levels of the company are talking about where are we, what looks good. The dashboard is live, so to speak. So if you want to drill into what's showing as a major disruption within goal number 1, you can, or what's overdue. But this is where we talked earlier in the call about making sure that those meetings are meaningful and they're sharing actual quantitative data. This is where that comes from. It also helps when you're thinking about replanning or setting new priorities for another year or another quarter. You can have a look at what's going on. You can break this down by department if you wanted to as well. If another department has a whole bunch of very high priority items coming up, probably don't have the space to give them a lot more to do unless you reprioritize things. So this can help facilitate that conversation internally as well.
We worked with an organization recently where, they had their top 3 strategic priorities from the year before, and we worked with them over time. And it showed up that after a year, they knocked their first priority out of the park, and they still had a lot of room to go on their second and third priorities. So when they realigned their strategic plan and went through the process, they said, okay, good, we can put this one to the side because we've accomplished it, and then let's focus on the other 2 that we really wanted to move forward. And the key to this is you see that it's an iterative process. Because as much as we would love strategic plans to be complete each year, each 12 months, each 3-year cycle, it's not how it works. It's really like a living thing, and the more focus you can put on it, the more progress, and you focus your resources like a laser and get stuff done. And a tool like this is just really helpful to measure and manage your performance, which is what today's webinar is about, really. So awesome.
Yeah, another thing to highlight. When you're evaluating a system to report and monitor progress, for those individuals that may not be as visual inclined or they like paper-based documents, it's important to have a solution that's going to offer both, right? Dashboards and various other ways of exporting data, whether that's a PDF or Excel or other means. Just to put that out there.
Yeah, you don't want to be locked. Again, we were talking about the flexibility that a reporting tool can offer for you. You don't want to be locked in. If this doesn't resonate with you or your organization, another view likely will. Or, like Madison said, you like having the paper. You like having all the charts and all the narrative to go through. So make sure that if you're going to do a spend, that it's going to meet all those needs.
Awesome. And then, we'll put a link for if you want to do a trial of Envisio, do a demo, www.envisio.com/SME-strategy. So envisio.com/SME-strategy, and you can do a demo through that. And I guess I'll take it away on the last slide here. Is just really around looking at where you are in your organizational plan. look at just having a strategic plan, setting your vision, and having that clear. That's the first step. And then moving around towards operational alignment. That's really getting your operations and your strategic priorities in line with your vision. The next step after that is really like embracing that performance management. So that's really where we've been talking about today, measuring success and like doubling down on what works. And then performance visibility, evidence-based decisions. So you're really taking the data that you have and making the right investments for your organization. And then, hitting your vision. Like, ultimately, that's what we're all committed to, is that you get the future that you want to create, and you bring your stakeholders, whoever they are, along the ride with you. And using a dashboard, whatever kind of dashboard you do, really taking that from your baseline strategic plan and vision to operational alignment, measuring success, and making evidence-based decisions. Those are the three key steps that you need to take to make that vision happen. And whether you use Envisio or something else, but really those are the next steps to take. And we really hope that that today's webinar has given you some access and some tools and some tips on how to make that happen. So guys, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the contact information? What do they need to do if they want to talk to Envisio or have any questions about doing some performance management? There is a slide. Amazing.
I think, so Madison and I, certainly you can reach out to either one of us. If you get in touch with me, and it really should go to Madison, we sit across from each other, so we'll make sure that we share. So, you might want a demo. Maybe you've got some questions. Maybe you want to know, can we help you? What do you need to know? We're happy to help you. If we're not the right place for you, then, we'll be upfront with you. We want to work with people that we can help. And if we're not the right place, or you're better served by starting off maybe with Anthony. We talk to you and say, hey, you know what? Sounds like you really need to start from the top and start facilitating that conversation about the overall strategic plan. We want to make sure that you're successful where you are, I guess is the point there. So we're open to any questions. We like talking to different people and learning how different organizations work and what your challenges are.
Yeah. I mean, if you're curious and want a demo, absolutely reach out to myself or Lori. I even bring Lori into a lot of my calls to really understand what a success looks like in terms of an implementation. So you'll get my feedback as well as Lori's. And as she mentioned, if we're not the right solution, we'll definitely point you in the right direction, whether that's SME Strategy to really build the vision, or maybe another solution that may have the features and functionality that you're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. And, just sort of as a last word for all of you listening, just thank you for participating today. I hope this was valuable. I hope it encourages you to have some steps that you can take to really take your organization to the next step, to transform your execution, get your team bought into your plan, and ultimately it's achieving your vision and putting a structure and a process in place so you can track what you're working on and really just hit your goals like that. At the end of the day, that's what we're here to help you do. So Madison, Lori, thank you so much for sharing today. It's been such a pleasure. I really appreciate it. And we'll put all the links to contact information in the slides in the replay. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
All right, recording is stopped.
Recording stops.